This is Richard Massey with Civil Plus Structural Engineer Magazine, and I'm delighted to be talking with Jim Lynch. He's the VP and General Manager of Autodesk Construction Solutions, and he's got a great announcement about a technology integration that they recently rolled out. Jim, how you doing this morning?
I am doing great. Thank you, Richard. How are you?
Good. So you're up in Boston, Massachusetts, huh?
I am. I'm in beautiful Boston in the Seaport District here.
Great, great. Well, before we get into the actual integration, and I'll let you fill our viewers in on the details on that, you've been at Autodesk for about 20 years, correct?
Correct. Yeah, just about 22 years, in fact.
Great. Well, and you're rolling out a brand new integration here, and you've had a press release, and what drives the people at Autodesk to continue to innovate and push forward?
Yeah, it's a great question, Richard. I think at the heart of it, I think innovation, is in our DNA, and it's been in our DNA since the company was formed in the mid '80s. With AutoCAD, the team that created the concept of AutoCAD, a desktop-based solution that would democratize and 2D and 3D design, and that's really where it started. And I think we've innovated over the years, and we've also partnered and acquired and further innovated the things that we've acquired or partnered with. And so I think at the end of the day, it's in our DNA, and quite honestly, it's about making sure that we're keeping up with the industry and what the industries that we serve require. And I think as a technology provider, as a leading technology provider, we have a role to play in not only keeping up, but in fact, in some cases, getting ahead of where the industries are going, so that we're ready when the industry and when the customer base is ready.
Great, good. And just wanted to kind of set that as the platform. So you just rolled out this integration between two of your offerings, two of your products. I'll just go ahead and let you tell us what that is, Jim.
Yeah, allow me to step back just for a moment and kind of set the stage as to why that integration, but really what our strategy is. Mm-hmm. So over the past year, Autodesk has been extremely active in the construction technology space. We did 3 key acquisitions. We acquired Assemble Systems, we acquired PlanGrid, and then we acquired BuildingConnected. This all on top of our already strong BIM 360 portfolio that we offered. So the thing that was important, those acquisitions, really were key to our strategy. Assemble really helps bridge the gap between design and pre-construction planning. PlanGrid, of course, is probably the world's best collaboration tool on the job site. And then, of course, BuildingConnected really disrupted the bidding process and how the bidding process takes place. And so those 3 acquisitions were really key to our strategy. But and in and of themselves, along with BIM 360, they all provide great productivity gains. But where the power really comes to the user base and to our customers is when these tools can work together and deliver meaningful workflows. So whether it's Assemble Systems taking rich Revit data and making it even richer for some of our pre-construction planning efforts around quantity takeoff, for example, or whether it's PlanGrid being able to now use a Revit model and access a Revit model to provide not only a 2D view of what's going on the job site, but a 3D view of what's going on the job site is extremely compelling. So this newest release that we announced just recently is between PlanGrid and BuildingConnected as well, of course. And that's the ability for the team that is in the middle of the bidding process to be able to access the appropriate project documents while they're doing that bidding. And that's important because it gives them up-to-date and accurate information, which ultimately drives a better, more accurate bidding process. So that's what we just announced. And by the way, you're going to start hearing, you'll continue to hear a lot more of these integrations over the next, several months, because it really is critical for us to not only deliver important point solutions, but deliver meaningful workflows across those products. That was a long answer, but I hope I got to, covered your point.
Yeah, great. And so how long was this integration process underway, to weld these two technologies together?
Yeah, so, we closed the PlanGrid acquisition in January. We closed the BuildingConnected in early February. And, the day after that second acquisition closed, the BuildingConnected acquisition closed, we got our teams together and said, okay, let's step back and let's think about what are the most meaningful workflows that we can deliver to the market. What are the biggest gaps that we're hearing from our customers when they're trying to go from pre-construction planning, which includes the bidding process, to, what happens on the job site. So we identified about 12 to 15 key workflows that we need to be focused on now. And that was one of them. And we felt like it was something that we could achieve relatively quickly. So the work on that, it was probably a couple of month effort, I would say, to actually build and deliver that capability to the market.
Oh, wow. That's light speed. I mean,
it is, and those things are just made easier when you have the two teams that are responsible for the technologies working together. Of course, we have a lot of third parties that we work with and integrate with, but that can sometimes take a little longer because of the fact that, you have, two different companies working on the integration. When it all comes together, we're able to accelerate these things because we're able to optimize the resources, right? It's not, this team is in that room and this team is in that room and never the two shall meet. Now, when you have these two teams together, you're able to mix and mingle and say, hey, let's move, some of these guys from PlanGrid over to work with BuildingConnected and just get this done. Or let's take a team, pull resources from both and just get it done. And so the flexibility that these acquisitions enable us to move faster, I believe.
Great answer. And so, how does this integration affect risk?
So, as we all know, the construction process is fraught with risk from the day a project is commissioned, is kicked off, started to the day it's commissioned. So it reduces risk because it provides access to accurate information early in the process. The risk that we're so familiar with in the construction industry is because of the lack of predictability, as we all know, right? It's just hard to predict what's going to happen from one day to the other, whether it's weather conditions on the job site, whether it's the lack of materials, the poor scheduling, misses in schedules. It's fraught with risk. So what this does is this reduces the risk by making sure the teams have access to the information they need and accurate information they need when they need it.
Great. And so how has the market reacted to this integration? Or there a wave of subscribers, or how is this being accepted?
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure the priorities that we set around these workflows were really driven by our customers. And in fact, we knew at time of acquisition that we had customers that were using all of these technologies separately. So a good base to feed from. But we also had some customers that didn't have them all because the products didn't talk to each other. So we've seen a good uptick in our customers are quickly embracing these workflows that we're delivering. And it's early, that one was just launched recently. So it's early, but we're definitely seeing the active use of that, which we track very closely. We're seeing that increase. We see the use of the PlanGrid BIM connection, if you will, that continues to, increase in terms of usage. So I have every expectation and belief that this workflow, the PlanGrid BuildingConnected workflow, we'll see great growth and great adoption of that because it delivers meaningful value. If it doesn't deliver any value, nobody's going to use it. And we believe this does, and our customers have confirmed that.
Great, great, fantastic. So looking at cost, which obviously is one of the biggest aspects of construction and design, how does this affect cost?
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, when we talk about some of the challenges in the industry, we always talk about low margins, high risk, right? And one of the reasons for low margins is because it's hard to control and predict costs on any construction project. So where this integration helps from a cost standpoint, again, if you're in the middle of the bidding process and you can get accurate insight into what the design team is planning, it gives you a better chance, quite frankly, to provide an accurate bid, which allows you to deliver your services within budget and ultimately improve your margins. Now, there's a lot of things, of course, Richard, that go into what drives the low margin. So, this should help. This is not the end-all, be-all, but this will help drive we believe it drives a better bidding process, which is a great place to start. There's a lot more that needs to happen downstream, but as a first step during the bidding process, providing an accurate bid that you can deliver against is a really important first step. So we think this is going to help from that perspective.
Great, great. And then obviously schedule is a big issue that engineering companies and construction firms face. So how does this fit into the schedule?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I think it's all kind of related, right? If you think about what drives a more accurate cost model is more accurate quantities, right? By the way, that's the things we get from the Assemble acquisition, more accurate quantities out of that design model. But more accurate quantities drives more accurate cost models, more accurate cost and quantities, a more accurate understanding of what it is, how you translate that design into what has to be built, because we know what comes from the design team is not a as-built view. So
right.
Anything you can do to help translate that, as design view into an as-built view ultimately helps the project team derive a better schedule. Now, I would say this integration, helps there a bit, but it helps more, on the cost and the accuracy piece than it does necessarily on the scheduling. But to be sure, if you're deriving a bid and that bid is an accurate bid, that bid includes time and materials. So ultimately, if that bid is accurate, that's going to have a positive impact on the schedule. Am I making sense?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, so you had users using both technologies, but they weren't talking to each other. Now they do. So what's the learning curve for your average project manager, working for a 150-man person engineering firm in Cleveland?
Yeah. So I want to make sure I understand the learning curve for this work.
Or is there a learning curve to now that these two technologies are talking to each other? I guess if someone knew how to use one and knew how to use the other, that they're, do they have to go through a tutorial to figure out this new product?
It's one of the things that I was deeply attracted to when we acquired both PlanGrid and BuildingConnected was the ease of use of both of those tools. And if you talk to the leadership of PlanGrid, they'll tell you their goal from day one was to build simple, powerful software that project teams love to use. And as we were going through due diligence, I spent a lot of time visiting different job sites where PlanGrid was being used, and it was amazing how deep the customer affinity was or is around that product, because it's it's very, very easy to use. So you have that. At the same time, Building Connect, same thing. That team, put a lot of focus into making that technology extremely easy to use. So you have two easy to adopt technologies. If you understand the workflow of what needs to move from one to the other, the learning curve is very, very simple. We don't have a deep tutorial. It's very straightforward.
Okay, great. So this is, you've offered a plug and play product.
Absolutely, and we have to do that. I think as the construction sector continues to embrace more technology, it's really important for us to make sure that that product, that technology is easy to use for not only the team sitting in the office doing the pre-construction planning, but almost more importantly for that team out on the job site.
Great. Well, let's look ahead. Obviously Autodesk is at the cutting edge of construction technology, but with what you're talking about today, how does that figure into the evolution of the construction industry and this drive to kind of push down the cost and to push down the schedule and get things done? Where does this new product fit into that whole thing?
Yeah, so I think, for us, it's all about how do we help our customers drive more predictability, right? And so we've taken a three-pronged strategic approach to this challenge. And, the first pillar, if you will, of our strategy is around digitization. So it's making project teams on the job site more successful by giving them the access they need to the information they need when they need it, and helping them to collaborate more effectively with other project team members. The second pillar is around integrating and automating these workflows. And this PlanGrid to Building Connected workflow that we're talking about fits squarely in that, right? Taking, processes that have not been necessarily connected tightly in the past and pulling them together. So this fits squarely into the second pillar of our strategy. The third pillar of our strategy, I think, is super exciting, and this is the idea of being able to use machine learning to analyze existing project information and extract key learnings, key insights to drive better outcomes on future projects. Those three things combined, we believe, drive greater predictability. But this workflow that we're talking about between PlanGrid and Building Connected is really about, delivering a meaningful way to work across project teams.
Great. Well, Jim, obviously you're very passionate about what you guys are doing there at Autodesk. Before we conclude this interview, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I think given the focus your listeners on the civil space, we're seeing some great wins with our portfolio, with our newly expanded portfolio in the civil space. Of course, recently we announced that the Tennessee Department of Transportation has chosen PlanGrid as their standard tool for site collaboration. I'm super excited about that. I think, a lot of the discussion on technology and construction tends to center around the building space, but I think the civil infrastructure space is super exciting and is really ready to embrace these technologies. And I think what you're going to see are many other DOTs follow the path of Tennessee, because I think that we're going to start seeing great wins, great progress from Tennessee with that. Of course, we also, a couple of years ago at AU, we announced our partnership with ArcGIS with Esri. Sorry, I lost my place there. We announced our partnership with Esri a couple of years ago, and we're doing great work integrating our Civil 3D platform with ArcGIS to really deliver a meaningful workflow. Again, it's about delivering not just point products, but important workflows. So you're going to see us continue to invest our efforts, not just around the building space, but also around the civil infrastructure space as well.
Great. Well, fantastic. Well, Jim, I've really enjoyed talking with you today, and I know our viewers are going to enjoy the information. And good luck with everything you do in the future. And I'm sure we'll talk again sometime.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, sir.